fuse has been lit on NXT. The 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 fuse has been lit on NXT.
Then, now, forever. Together.
And now, WWE presents Countdown to Heatwave.
Well, just when you thought the summer couldn't get any hotter, tonight our NXT superstars are turning it up a notch. Welcome on in to Countdown to WWE Heatwave. I'm Megan Morant. He is Sam Roberts. And Sam, I know we're a bit of a ways down the road from Lowell, Massachusetts, but are you feeling the heat?
Oh, I can feel the heat. It's radiating out of Lowell tonight. I mean, NXT, we've watched them week by week building and building and building all summer long, and tonight, that pressure cooker absolutely explodes. It's heat wave.
That's right, with 3 championships on the line. Let's take a look at all of the action that is coming your way tonight at Heatwave. The NXT champion, Oba Femi, has been unstoppable. But can Javon Evans become the youngest NXT champion in history? We're going to find out tonight.
You bet we will. And how about this one? The TNA Knockouts Championship is on the line. The unlikely champion, JC Jane, defending against 2 of TNA's best, Ash by Elegance and Masha Slamovich.
Hank Walker and Tank Ledger defend their NXT Tag Team Championship tonight against Dark State. But here's the kicker. Which 2 members of Dark State will they face?
We've got a mixed tag team match with continental consequences tonight. Tavion Heights and Tyra May Steele team up to face Team Canada, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green.
They call the NXT Women's Division the best division in all of women's wrestling. We are looking at 3 of the finest, Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan, and Lola Vice, who all want a shot to become NXT champion.
Oh, and grudges don't get more personal than this. Blake Monroe successfully lured Jordan Grace into her trap, but does she really know who she's lured into that trap?
It's not over until I win.
Oh my God! The Juggernaut! Jordan Grace is here. The best women's division in the world just became the strongest.
I was never supposed to be here. I couldn't be the most beautiful in the ring. I would never be the tallest, but I could get wider, I could get stronger, I could force people to notice me, to see me, and I did that. And I became a champion again and again and again. I became the face of an entire women's division. I could have stayed there, or I could take a risk.
Jordynne Grace entering the Royal Rumble match.
Anything can happen.
Glamour is forever.
Oh my God! NXT just became glamorous.
You can call me
Blake Monroe. The glamour doesn't just walk into the spotlight. She's the reason it exists. The glamour is the girl you've been waiting for.
the glamour raises the bar, turns heads, and redefines what it means to be a star.
Write it down, babe, glamour is forever.
Blake, where are you?
Jordan, I sent my driver. We are going to have a glamour workout. I'm talking nails, hair, maybe a massage. No, the Great American Bash is not going to know what's hit it.
First, we beat Fatal Influence at Bash. Then, I beat JC Evolution.
What a win for this newly minted tag team. How does this affect tomorrow night's Evolution?
This is the biggest match of my career. It would really mean a lot to me if you were in my corner.
This is your moment. I don't want to take away from it.
You won't.
I'll see you out there.
Blake Monroe, it has proven an incredibly wise decision from Jordynne Grace.
Finish the job!
Oh! Blake Monroe just stuck it to Jordynne Grace. The real question is why?
Breaking news. Blake Monroe despises everything about Jordynne Grace.
Jordan isn't good enough.
When you look at Blake Monroe, and then you look at Jordynne Grace, who would you rather be?
Grace is back! She's nuts! Get her out of here! From glamorous to villainous in a blink of an eye.
I'm not here to play nice. I'm here to be the woman this brand revolves around.
The Juggernaut is absolutely possessed on right after the glamour. Monroe cost her a championship, cost her glory, and now it's going to cost Blake Monroe for a lot more.
At Heat Wave, I'm going to show you what ugly really looks like.
We've been on the journey with the Juggernaut, Jordynne Grace, for quite some time. It took her 15 years to make it to WWE, and a friendship has what put Jordynne Grace at odds here. Does that surprise you at all? Did you ever think it would be a friendship that caused Jordynne Grace so many issues?
Well, I think that this happens in this industry of professional wrestling. Some people love that connection. Some people love that camaraderie. And some people, they smell it out and they realize there's a weakness there. There's a weakness to take advantage of. There's two schools of thought. There's show friends and there's show business. And Blake Monroe clearly comes from that school of business.
Well, Blake Monroe also said when we saw these two superstars come face-to-face last Tuesday that Jordynne Grace feels sorry for herself. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I don't think Jordynne Grace feels sorry for herself. I think Jordynne Grace is in touch with her emotions more than a lot of people might think. I think that Jordynne Grace is aware of any potential shortcomings that she had to overcome previously, but I've seen Jordynne Grace get in that ring. That is not a person that doubts herself. That is not a person throwing a pity party for herself. I think Blake Monroe may be trying to put those ideas into Jordynne Grace's head. I think Blake Monroe is trying to manifest this. Blake Monroe is trying to see if she can get Jordynne Grace to doubt herself. Because if Jordynne Grace is doubting herself going into this match, Blake Monroe is the person that's going to be able to take advantage of all of it. Well,
one thing about Blake Monroe is she always has a plan, whether that be at Evolution when we saw her turn her back on Jordynne Grace or whatever Blake Monroe has up her sleeve.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the strength and just the ability that Jordynne Grace presents in the ring, how does Blake Monroe attack that?
It's got to be a mental game for Blake Monroe. I mean, listen, Blake Monroe has made no secret. The reason she got into this industry is to be in the WWE. You talk about Jordynne Grace working as hard as she has. This is Blake Monroe's dream. They just went after that dream differently. Blake Monroe realized there was a weakness, a perceived weakness from her end anyway, and realized that it could get her a big match on a massive NXT PLE, and that's how Blake Monroe got here. I think she's got to be strategic. I think she's got to have a plan, and I think she's got to move in a way that we don't see it coming. Because if you and I can see it coming, then you better believe Jordynne Grace is going to see it coming. And if Jordynne Grace sees it coming, Blake Monroe doesn't have a chance.
It's hard to believe that the women's division gets even deeper than Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace, but it definitely does. And we're going to see 3 of the very best NXT women's superstars go at it tonight in a triple threat match. They're all vying to become the #1 contender as Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, and Jada Parker battle it out. Just hours ahead of Triple Mania, we caught up with Lola Vice.
Lola Vice!
Hola, Andrea!
Welcome to Mexico City.
Thank you.
Triple Mania. You're a busy woman, but thank you so much for
Big
sitting.
day today. My biggest show yet.
I know. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me to talk about your match at Heatwave. Last year, you challenged for the NXT Women's Championship. This year, in Massachusetts, you look to get back on the title picture in a #1 contenders triple threat match. So what is different this year?
Mira, Andrea, I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago. And with the limited experience I had, I was this close to winning the championship. Pero tú sabes qué? I've been wrestling internationally for AAA. Es que I'm living my best life. I've been representing this company. And I don't care who you are or where you come from, I will knock you out if you get in the way of me and that championship.
But Lola, I have to say this. Becoming #1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship, it is not the same as fighting in a cage as you did in MMA.
True. Pero fighting's all I've ever known. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I got to the WWE, I struggled. I didn't know if I was gonna fit in. I didn't know if I was gonna pick this up as quickly as I did MMA. And I learned real quick that this isn't the cage. This is the WWE. But you know what? I worked extremely hard. And now, a year later, I have no doubts. And I believe in myself more than ever.
You have history with Jada Parker. And some would say you're friends with Kalani Jordan. 2 women you're very familiar with.
Mira, I love Kalani. All respect to her, but she's already had a title. She became the first North American champion for a reason. Pero this isn't about friendships. This is about business. And when the time comes, I'm gonna have to do what I have to do. And now Jada Parker, Jada me tiene hasta aquí. She just had a huge title shot at Stand and Deliver. She's had opportunity after opportunity, and she's entitled enough to think that she deserves another one. Pero why? What has she done? She's all bark, no bite. Una mujer muy envidiosa. She keeps saying, Parker's got next, Parker's got next. Pero the only thing she's up next for is this ass whooping I'm gonna give her a heat wave. This year, more than ever, the NXT Women's Division stock grew. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I got pushed to the side. I got lost in the shuffle. So for me, this is do or die, and I'm out to prove a point. It's about time that title comes home to Vice City, baby. So Kalani, Jada, if you can't handle the heat, get out of my way. Cause that heat wave, I'm turning Lowell into Vice City, baby.
I can see you're ready. Lola, thank you so much for this time, and I wish you the very, very best tonight and always.
Gracias.
Lola Vice is exactly right. The depth in this women's division is on another level, but the fact that Lola Vice says she feels like she got pushed to the side, Sam, with all of that power and aggression that Lola Vice has, what is that going to do as she enters the ring with two of the best?
Hopefully it does exactly what she needs it to do. I mean, you're not wrong. You've mentioned a couple times now when you talk about depth, the fact that we have a triple threat match that is this high level, and that's just to determine who the #1 contender is. That is how many women are vying for that top spot. And just when you turn around, another world-class athlete enters the division. I think that's what Lola Vice is talking about, the fact that she came to NXT. It was a couple of years ago at this point. And I'm sure that she thought coming right out of the cage that she'd be one of those elite-level athletes that were going to go straight to the top, except the competition is fierce. I think that now that Lola Vice has come to that realization, has let it settle in, and realized that she has to make sure that she's not pushed to the back, because if she's not the one making sure that she will be, I think it makes her much more dangerous.
And she's right. Jada Parker has had a title opportunity. Kalani Jordan has held the first ever NXT Women's North American Championship in WWE. And we've seen Kalani grow a lot since that time when she was a champion. We've seen Jada Parker evolve as well. But you're talking about three insane athletes. Kalani Jordan, Michigan State Gymnastics. We talk about Jada Parker. She's been recruited for soccer since she was in middle school, but things are different when they're inside the square circle.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because as you were saying, I'm like, yeah, they are all accomplished women, but you have to be hungry. This is hand-to-hand combat. You are in there literally fighting for your life to declare yourself next to the #1 person in the division that this whole thing spins around, the NXT women's division. I think Kalani Jordan has gotten a lot more serious as of late. I think that she realizes that she has a lot to prove, and that the competition gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that she is no longer a rookie sensation.
That's right.
She's got to prove what she can do with longevity, and I think having a friendship with Lola Vice, while I'm sure it makes the day-to-day easier, she's got to forget that, because I guarantee you Lola Vice will. And I also guarantee you that Jada Parker is going into that ring with 0 friends. Jada Parker is going into that ring hungry, and Jada Parker is going into that ring ready to tear people limb from limb to get what she feels she has coming.
Well, you said inside that ring, you got to fight. Lola Vice was born and bred a fighter. Does that give her the advantage?
I think where it gives Lola Vice the advantage is she can separate that friendship thing. I've interviewed a lot of MMA fighters in the past, and when they get in that cage, it's business. It doesn't matter the relationship that you have outside the cage. It's business, and you're fighting for your life. And I think that that's where Lola Vice has to be coming from. But quite frankly, I think that's where Kalani Jordan has to be fighting from. I think that's where Jada Parker has to be fighting from. And I think that is an advantage for Lola Vice. But like you said, they all come from an elite athlete background. I think when you tap in to that level of being an elite athlete, it's not just about the physical. It's about the mental. It's about fighting like a champion. And that's the place that all three of these women need to be in tonight.
There are elite athletes all over NXT, and you're going to catch them coming your way tonight at Heat Wave. But when we come back on Countdown, R. Kelly Kincaid caught up with 2 Olympians who will be duking it out tonight at Heat Wave.
I can't wait for this.
This November,
It is quite the feeling here. It is electric.
the Padres home field gets a whole new lineup. When WWE
An absolutely incredible scene.
hits Petco Park,
A slugfest for the ages.
Oh my goodness. The epic performance that no one will ever forget.
WWE Survivor Series San Diego. Tickets on sale now.
We all
all know McDonough has such an extensive knowledge of the human anatomy, and it's coming into play right now in this main event, systematically dissecting the NXT champion.
JD McDonough is a dangerous and scary individual. Nothing creates fear in the locker room more than knowing there is a man loose in that locker room, intent
and Breakker
committing severe harm to opponents.
Running on pure adrenaline. Frankensteiner, is this going to be enough? He just bit the challenger in half into a 2. Well, it was a near 3 count for McDonough.
Just insane regenerative abilities of Bron Breakker once again. Take another look at this. When you think he's down and out, he pulls out something like that. Crazy athleticism for a man the size of Bron Breakker, even more so after the damage he's incurred in this match.
McDonough answering right back. You can hear that kick ringing through the NXT universe, and now it's McDonough who's maybe looking for an exclamation point. What's McDonough thinking? Breakker trying his best to block, trying to sit down. McDonough muscling up Breakker. Spanish fly! You gotta be kidding me. This is gonna be McDonough's moment. Brainbuster! Right into the cover. For the title, Breakker kicks out at 2. Whoa!
Oh my word,
damn, that was close.
Damage incurred by the neck of Bron Breakker, one after the other. Spanish fly first of all against Bron of all people. A brainbuster targeted offense.
So look at the live action. McDonough to the top rope. McDonough looking for the moonsault, able to roll through. Breakker had it scouted, and Breakker spear. But much like we saw earlier, not able to capitalize.
Yeah, the impact of that spear not only reverberating on the ribs of the challenger JD McDonough, but also down the cervical spine of the champ Bron Breakker.
Breakker quickly getting McDonough back into the ring. And now could be setting up.
He's got that look in his eye.
McDonough bought himself some extra time, but for what? As Breakker, boom again! When you talk about winds of change, Breakker's entering into that zone. How the hell is McDonough standing?
How the hell's he laughing?
He said he welcomes pain in a 3rd spear. Breakker said everyone has a plan until they're broken in half. Breakker retains his NXT title.
Here's your winner, and still the NXT champion, Bron Breakker.
What a win.
What a battle.
What a match.
This October, John Cena lands in Perth for a full-scale WWE takeover. It all starts with SmackDown, ends with Raw, and in the center of it all, Cena takes the spotlight for one of WWE's most massive nights. WWE Crown Jewel in Perth. 3 nights, 1 epic weekend. All at RAC Arena. WWE TakeOver Perth this October. Combo tickets on sale now.
This absolute destroyer, Oba Femi, as NXT champion, has run roughshod over the entire division, and he looks to do it again tonight at Heatwave. I doubt it'll go any differently.
Well, if Javon Evans has anything to say about it, it will. It is his mission to become the youngest NXT champion in WWE history. Can he dethrone the ruler tonight? Also at Heatwave, Tavion Heights and Tyra May Steele have that Olympic background, but can they match the experience of Ethan Page and Chelsea Green?
Tavion Heights, Tyra May Steele, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Now, you two both have epic background, so I would love to take some time to familiarize the WWE Universe with them. You were the first ever female Olympic wrestling gold medalist in WWE history, and you have to be immensely proud.
Oh, gosh. Kelly, of course I'm proud. Like, to be the first in anything, I'm absolutely proud. When I first started wrestling on the mats, I just thought to myself, man, I could really do this. I can get away with being aggressive and just throwing people and it just be absolutely legal. And when I started winning gold and winning championships, and then went to the 2021 Olympic Games, and I was blessed to become an Olympic gold medalist, come on. So excited, so proud to represent the great country of America.
And you, Tavion?
Kelly, I'm a firm believer in giving someone their flowers while they can smell them, and what Tyra did, being the first black woman to win Olympic gold in the sport of wrestling for this country, she's in a league of her own. Now, as for myself, wrestling saved my life, Kelly. I was a fighter innately, to the point where it got me expelled from high school, and that kind of brought me across a man named T.C. Danzler, who showed up on my doorstep and said, "I'm the man who's gonna change your life." I slammed the door in his face and I laughed. Obviously I didn't believe him, and who would, but he believed in me and he found a way to channel that energy that I had into something greater. And now, every single time you see me step out in that ring, I give everything because, well, wrestling gave everything to me.
Recently, you have drawn the ire of North American champion and very proud Canadian, Ethan Page. So what was it that made you want to step up?
When Ethan even hints at the fact that I'm not ready for something like this, it irks me. I take offense because, well, I'm not afraid of my own ambitions, Kelly. The only thing that I'm afraid of personally is mediocrity. So when I punched Ethan in the face, it's not because Ethan has a very punchable face, which he does. I punched Ethan in the face for every American patriot that wishes they could hear his voice just a little bit less.
Oh, Ethan has aligned himself with former Women's United States champion and also very proud Canadian Chelsea Green. And you said that you were going to go out and find someone that could counteract Chelsea Green, and you chose Tyra. So Tyra, how did you feel whenever Tavion told you? What was your reaction?
The opportunity was incredible, and we're both Olympians, so who better to go out there and represent Tavion than me, another Olympian. Let's be honest, Chelsea's a little annoying. She's kind of a nuisance. And in my opinion, she's kind of writing checks that her mouth can't cash. And so when Tavion asked me to be his partner, the answer was obvious.
Now, you just won the first season of LFG. Congratulations, by the way, incredible. But you were on Team Undertaker. Do you feel prepared for this opportunity against Ethan Page and Chelsea Green at Heatwave?
Prepared? I'm 1000% prepared. He's always told me to just have confidence in myself. He says that I already have it in me and I need to go out there and show everybody what I'm capable of. I have so much to offer. I am talented and I'm confident in that. I am gifted, I work hard, I'm confident in all of that. And now I just need to go out there and apply it.
Do you feel prepared for whatever Ethan and Chelsea have planned at Heatwave?
Hell yeah. He's the real deal. He's a vet. He's experienced, and unfortunately, the only thing he has is not just a big mouth. He also has some skill to back it up. But I know one thing's for sure, after that bell rings in Heatwave, you better believe that he's gonna respect me just as much as I have to respect him. Me and Tyra are gonna stand on business and represent this country's flag again and show why Ethan's standard of Canadian excellence doesn't hold a match.
Well, Tavion, Tyra, thank you again so much for joining me today, and good luck at Heatwave.
Thank you for having us.
This one is about so much more than the victory. We are talking about the United States against Canada. They couldn't come to an agreement during the peace treaty.
Shocking.
And it all leads to this. And we talked a little earlier about all the athletes in NXT, but we are talking about 2 Olympians, including an Olympic gold medalist. That has to take it to an entirely new level.
We're also talking about national pride, right? And we know how Ethan Page and Chelsea Green feel about Canada. We've seen the TikToks, the denim, the Celine Dion. I respect it. But what I think they're not taking into account is the level of national pride that an Olympian feels. You're talking about people who went to the Olympics and fought for the United States and won, okay? I don't know if Ethan Page and Chelsea Green have factored in that just because, you know, they haven't seen their opponents maybe in a wrestling ring as much as Ethan Page and Chelsea Green have been in, they've still been in the fight.
But Chelsea Green was the first ever women's United States champion as well. So she is technically speaking, represented the United States.
She has represented the United States. I think her representation was questionable. Some may disagree. I know some enjoyed her. I did not feel she was a proper representative of the United States of America, but I will tell you, Canada is over the moon for this duo. And I don't know that I've seen a better representation of Canada since, I don't know, Bryan Adams. I mean, this is an instance where these two may be at the right place at the right time to really showcase how good they are. And I'll say this, if they win tonight, I got to blame Canada. That's what you have to do. If they win, if Chelsea Green and Ethan Page win.
It's Canada's fault.
Well, they brought him to victory, I would suppose. There's so much pride oozing out of all this. But, you know, Ethan Page, really, I do have to give him credit. He takes the North American Championship, and I think that here in the United States, we've often associated the entire continent with our own nation and declares, hey, Canada's a big part of this continent as well. I don't know if he had to redo the strap and everything, but he's not wrong. He is representing Canada as well as North American champion.
Well, not only are these two incredibly athletic as Olympians winning a gold medal, but they've also earned the respect of legends in the business. Tyra May Steele, I mean, she was underneath The Undertaker, underneath Booker T.
LFG.
At LFG.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about who she's becoming in WWE.
Look, there is nothing negative to say about Tyra May Steele or Tavion Heights. They are absolutely incredible. But I want you to look at all those graphics on the wall and see who the champions are, okay? In the WWE, in NXT, champions wear gold around their waist, not around their neck. And while that is great to declare that as your background, if you can't get gold around your waist, that doesn't count for much in NXT.
That's absolutely right. Well, this is not the only tag team match that we will see tonight at NXT Heatwave. The tag team championships are also on the line as Hank Walker and Tank Ledger defend the title against Dark State, who has completely run roughshod across all of NXT for weeks. Sam, let's take you back to what Dark State has been doing on NXT.
Well, this is what I talk about. When you talk about making an impact in NXT, the first thing you want to do is put gold, what? Around your waist.
Right.
And that's what the Dark State has been doing, targeting Hank and Tank, the NXT Tag Team Champions, and realizing that if they wanted the NXT universe to be saying the name of Dark State, they had to make statements like this. They had to be there and declare war on this Hank and Tank. And look, throughout most of the physical altercations that they've had, whether it be with Hank and Tank or Chase U, the Dark State has come out on top in a relatively short amount of time in NXT. The Dark State has done exactly what they wanted to. Now, this is where you start to question things. The Dark State didn't have the advantage here. It was Hank and Tank that came in when the Dark State least expected it, and it wasn't quite so one-sided. But really, if security hadn't been there to separate it, who knows what exactly would have happened. All I know is the Dark State is in NXT to make a major, major impact. These are young, hungry superstars who want to be taken seriously. And what better way to be taken seriously than to be crowned the NXT Tag Team Champions?
And Hank Walker and Tank Ledger, they're fighting an uphill battle because they don't even know which two members of Dark State that they will be facing. We saw earlier this week them talking to General Manager Ava, trying to get some answers to this question. In your mind, does that give Dark State an advantage?
100% it gives them an advantage. I don't see how you could argue otherwise. Hank and Tank ultimately don't know who they're wrestling tonight. If they're watching tape study, if they're training, they have to train for all four members of the Dark State. And quite honestly, whichever two are in the ring with you, you got to know that the other two are going to be looming around somewhere. Look, it comes down to this. The world changed for Hank and Tank when they won those NXT Tag Team Championships. You remember we were there, and we couldn't believe what we were seeing, but everything has been different for Hank and Tank since they put gold around their waist. Tonight, the Dark State are just following that model, except Hank and Tank have found themselves as the ones being targeted instead of the ones doing the targeting.
There's no question that Dark State has made an impact on NXT. Who has also made an impact on NXT? The Ruler, Oba Femi, the NXT champion. We still have a lot to get to right here on Countdown, and when we come back, our Blake Howard caught up with the NXT champion, Oba Femi.
I wonder if Blake Howard survived this confrontation.
I hope so. Whew.
Or not.
And we're also going to hear from Fatal Influence on Countdown here. They've got a battle to fight tonight at Heatwave.
They better be getting along.
Yeah.
I had a dream. WrestleMania 41 was the most successful WrestleMania in history. We shattered every record from attendance to viewership. So we're running it back to the sports and entertainment capital of the world. I had a dream, I had a vision, I had to work for this and you didn't. It's time to double down, Las Vegas. WrestleMania returns in 2026. Are you ready? Now get me off of this thing.
Trick didn't have a choice. Yeah, that's his friend. But now, the mathematical odds we've been talking about have just increased. You're the champion.
Just broke that kid in half right there. He had to do it.
And look at Trick. Trick's trying to fire himself back up. Trick's trying to refocus. Trick right now with Shawn Spears in his sights. Spears just took a half step backwards.
This is it.
To lock in the sharpshooter. And somewhere Bret Hart is smiling. Can Shawn Spears get Trick Williams to tap to the sharpshooter in Canada? Ethan Page, though, gonna break up all that real quick. But Ethan Page, is it gonna pay off for Page?
Trying to capitalize, Nick. He's trying to capitalize. Oh, that could be it.
Ego's Edge. Got all of it. Cover. And there's Javon Evans breaking up the count. I don't know how the hell Evans is even moving.
Wow.
We talked about Evans and the rib injury he sustained several weeks ago. That certainly has had to have gotten re-aggravated after bouncing off the table. And right now, Ethan Page is pissed off. Ethan Page is angry. Ethan Page, mean streak is coming out.
He's losing his cool, Vic. I don't like that.
And remember, it was Ethan Page who was talking about Trick and Javon needing to keep their emotions in check. And one more time, another's Ego's Edge, and whoosh, Spears saving things for a moment. And, oh! Trick shot! Trick shot wiped out Evans! Trick shot to Page! Trick, we don't know what gets it!
What the?
What? What the hell?
Here's your winner and the new NXT champion. Wow.
What the hell?
Did I tell you? There's something about him.
Trick Williams, right here in front of us, is pissed. Trick Williams is beside himself right now, and rightfully so. I'm just as stunned as the rest of the NXT universe. The fuse has been lit on NXT.
Now, this was a moment that, Sam, nobody saw coming.
Oh, you can say that again, but that's been the story of Jacy Jayne's entire run as NXT Women's Champion. It all started by defeating one of the most dominant NXT Women's Champions that we've had in a very long time. Jacy Jayne beating Stephanie Vaquer to become the NXT Women's Champion, and she took it personally. When people said I didn't see it coming, when that dude right there was sitting there with his jaw agape, Jacy Jayne took it personally, and she just kept winning. They said the same thing going into Slammiversary last month. Jacy Jayne is not going to also win the Knockouts Championship. Jacy Jayne is not going in to a TNA building and beating Masha Slamovich for that title. But what did Jacy Jayne do? She called her shots. She said, I'm going in there to become a double champ. I'm going in to take TNA's property away with me. And that's exactly what she did, covering the champion Masha Slamovich, and once again being underestimated, and once again conquering as a now double champion in both NXT and TNA.
Love her or hate her, she is a history maker in WWE, holding not only the NXT Women's Championship, but the TNA Knockouts Championship as well. But can TNA get their title back? We'll find out tonight when Ash by Elegance and Masha Slamovich take on Jacy Jayne for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Sam, this is what we saw earlier this week on NXT. Ash by Elegance is in a six-woman tag team match.
That's right, with Masha Slamovich as the special referee. And Megan, I want you to be careful how you phrase this match, because you asked, can TNA get their title back? And that might be a risk if TNA were working as a unit. But we saw in this match last Tuesday that Masha Slamovich and Ash by Elegance are not on the same page. Yes, these two both want the Knockouts Championship back in TNA. However, they both want it around their own singular waist. This is not a case of two TNA superstars trying to get the Knockouts Championship back. This is a case, as it should be in a triple threat, of every woman for themselves.
But there is a lot of pride for the TNA women, and they want somebody in TNA to hold that championship. But the problem is, Jacy Jayne holds the championship, and no one, no matter what they've been able to do, has been able to overcome the smarts of Jacy Jayne.
Well, you're right. It is a personal thing, because for a long time, the Knockouts division in TNA was, quite frankly, the gold standard in women's wrestling. It was the blueprint. It was where the best were. And then all of a sudden, things started to evolve, and that started to become very, very questionable. And then we got to this place where NXT boldly chest out claimed that this is where the best women's division in the world was. So you can only imagine how that entire Knockouts roster felt when an NXT woman walked into Slammiversary and walked out with the Knockouts Championship. Now again, both Masha Slamovich and Ash by Elegance want to be the ones to stand on top of this historic Knockouts division, but again, people are walking in underestimating Jacy Jayne, and it's the greatest mistake in this entire division that anyone has made all year. At this point, Jacy Jayne can't lose.
Yeah, the confidence level of Jacy Jayne has to be at an all-time high because no one even thought she would become the NXT Women's Champion. Now she's a double champion, and she continues to find ways to get ahead. Does that experience that she has going up against Masha Slamovich before, and we saw, the interaction between her and Ash by Elegance picking up the pin on Tuesday over Ash, does that give Jacy a leg up?
Well, I think it puts her in a better position than she otherwise would have been in. I think having any experience with an opponent must, I wouldn't have any personal experience, but it must make it easier to get in there to at least somewhat know what you're dealing with once you're in the ring. However, to go back to a comment you made a moment ago, confidence. How much confidence does Jacy Jayne have, and is it too much? Yeah. Jacy Jayne winning both championships unexpectedly may have been that boost that Jacy needed to get on top of both of those opponents. Now, if we're walking into Heatwave, and there's a different set of expectations on Jacy Jayne, we almost expect her to win these big championship matches. And Jacy expects to win these matches. If it's not an upset, is it Jacy Jayne's match anymore?
Yeah, it's one thing when nobody expected Jacy to win or to become a champion, but now that she is a champion, how does she fight while she is on top? One thing that we have always expected is that Oba Femi destroys any opponent that he faces, and tonight Oba looks to do the same as he battles Javon Evans, who's looking to become the youngest NXT champion in history.
Who sits at the top of the mountain after Stand and Deliver? And Oba falls from grace. It's Oba Femi who is still the NXT champion.
I thought that I was ready for the NXT championship. I think now I can say that I wasn't.
A heartbreaker for Javon Evans, but his future couldn't be any brighter if you set it on fire.
I feel like people work for these opportunities. I think that's what I did throughout this past year.
Javon Evans, the #1 prospect in NXT.
I am the young OG.
Everybody in NXT knows that that boy is
Evans from the heavens! Covered by Evans, and he's gonna run out of time!
I experienced challenge after challenge after challenge, but one challenge that kept coming back to me was where I think what's next for the young OG, until I got some legendary advice from a WWE Hall of Famer.
You still trying to figure out what to do next? You ask me? You continue going after the biggest dog in the yard.
the NXT champion. No one thrives under the bright lights quite like Oba Femi.
NXT is supposed to be the brand built for the future. But I look at this division now, the future is not looking very bright. Because I beat them all, I stopped them all, I've destroyed them all. Who is worthy enough to take this title from me?
Oba Femi. Anyone who watches NXT knows that Trent Williams is the biggest dog NXT has to offer. You keep searching for the man who's gonna take you off this mountain. Look no further. I am that man.
Trick, your ass goofy as hell, boy. The young OG met The Undertaker, and this Hall of Famer gave me some advice, saying that I should go after the biggest dog in the yard, which is honestly Oba Femi. And you out here trying to make this all about yourself. That say, man, you throw the hands, and whoever wins gets to face Oba for the NXT Championship.
Live in Philadelphia, Javon Evans. Can he get past Williams tonight? Who heads the Heatwave as the #1 contender to the NXT Championship?
Yes, Javon. You like the bounce. I'm about to bounce your ass back to high school.
And I just saw the look in Javon's eyes.
Got so much fire inside the young OG.
The fact that Evans is moving right now. Javon, for the love of God, stay down. Wait, where'd Oba go?
That's Mike Santana. Javon Evans getting bouncy. Going into the cover. Javon is
There's a new champion Sunday, and it's gonna be me, baby! Javon Evans.
Every single NXT Countdown show, Sam, you and I stand in front of this very ring, and we talk about Obafemi defending his championship, and I ask you the same exact question. What makes this one different? And you never have an answer for me.
Because they're not different.
Do you have an answer this time when it comes to Javon Evans?
They're never different. I appreciate the question, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but they're just never different. And this is what happened. We have to deal in reality. We can't live in storybook land. Do we want Javon Evans to have his moment? Of course we want Javon Evans to have his moment, especially after what he went through last Tuesday. But the reality is that in order to get that moment, you have to beat Obafemi. And you should be asking me every single PLE what makes this one different. And I do have the duty to tell you, it ain't any different. Put whoever you want in the ring with Obafemi. If there's anything that we've learned from watching NXT, it's gonna be a fight. And everybody in NXT is going to take the fight to Obafemi. But somehow, this guy gets better and better and better. And because of that, when it comes to the result, nothing changes.
Well, let's find out if Obafemi feels the same way, because earlier this week, he caught up with our Blake Howard.
Obafemi, thank you for joining me ahead of your upcoming NXT title defense this coming Sunday in Lowell, Massachusetts at Heatwave. Oba, in your over 200 days as NXT champion thus far, all of your title defenses, do you feel that you've truly been tested?
Of course. I've been pushed to the limit and taken even further than I thought I could even go, because I've put down every single man that has stepped up to oppose me. But that's because I know what it's like to lose. You see, let me take you back to last year when I was having my historic North American Championship reign. And it all came to an end when I lost to Tony D'Angelo at Halloween Havoc. And after that loss, I told myself I was going to come back bigger, better, faster, stronger. And this time, I'm going to go after the highest prize in all of NXT and have a reign that is close to perfection. And I think as it stands right now, I'm as close to perfection as it gets.
Oh, but let's bring it back to your opponent this coming Sunday at Heatwave in Javon Evans. How is he ultimately stacked up against the rest of your challengers for the NXT Championship?
You know, Blake, a few months ago, I looked Javon Evans in the eyes and I called him a child. He proved me wrong at Stand and Deliver. But even back then, when I said that about him, I still thought he was good. And now he's made even more improvements to his game. And I know this because I kept a very close eye on him when we tagged 2 weeks ago. And I watched the match between him and Trick in Philly. Me and Javon are definitely on the same path. And there's a reason why The Undertaker gave us both the stamp of approval. But there's also a reason why he came to me first. Because me and Javon may be on the same path, but we're definitely not in the same position. So no matter how hard he tries, he will always be 10 steps behind me.
Oh, but this Sunday, you and Javon do the dance once again. This time it's one-on-one. We heard The Undertaker, what he said to Javon, said go after the biggest dog in the yard. And now we're looking at perhaps the most focused and determined young OG we've ever seen in NXT. Do you feel at all concerned or perhaps threatened that Javon will do
Wait, hold on. Concerned? Threatened? Am I a joke to you? You think the ruler is just a nickname, a moniker? No. This is who I am, Blake. This is who I've been. I've spent many days in NXT with gold around my waist. 272 days as North American champion. 200 plus days as NXT champion and counting. And I'm still here. You think I have this by mistake? No, Blake. I have this because I'm worthy. And it doesn't matter how hungry Javon Evans is or anyone that comes after him. It doesn't matter how hungry or determined they are. I will consume them. I will destroy them. I have this because I am worthy and they are not. So when I beat Javon Evans 1, 2, 3 in the middle of that ring at Heatwave, it will remind you and everyone else that I am the ruler, the champion, the chosen, the worthy Obafemi.
I mean, it's It's hard to look into the eyes of Obafemi and expect any different outcome than Obafemi walking out of Lowell, Massachusetts with the NXT Championship around his waist. But I saw something different out of Javon Evans on Tuesday on NXT when he was battling Trick Williams for the opportunity to face Oba tonight at Heatwave. Sam, it looked like he was completely out of that match. He went to a place that we've never seen him go to before. If he goes to that place once again tonight, will it be enough to overcome Oba?
It's going to be a different place. If he goes to that place tonight, it's going to have to be a different place because overcoming Obafemi is not like overcoming anything else on the planet. I'm surprised that Blake Howard was able to get out of that room in one piece. And by the way, if I'm Javon Evans, I'm not terribly thrilled that Blake Howard got Obafemi that riled up, that angry. I think we got a different Obafemi. I think we have an angry Obafemi. I think we have an angry Obafemi because he doesn't understand how 200-plus days in, he's still got people doubting whether he can beat Javon Evans or anyone else for that matter. To answer your question, I agree with you. I think we did see a different Javon Evans. I think that we did see, you're welcome. I think that we did see The Undertaker put that spark into Javon. But it's just a different beast when you get under the lights of a PLE and Obafemi is the guy that you're staring across the ring at. And I did not think that Javon Evans was going to stand back up after crashing through that table. But not only did he stand back up, he was able to win that match. If he can find that level of strength and then maybe add another 10 points to it, then yeah, he may have a chance, but that's a lot of points to accumulate.
During that sit-down with Blake Howard, it was interesting to me that Obafemi pointed out how he scouted Javon Evans and how he notices the differences in his game. Is that what it takes to continue to dominate in the way that Oba does?
Well, we've talked about it with some of the other champions that you can't just assume because you've won in the past, you're going to keep winning. You have to realize, and I think that we talked about this before, that the longer Obafemi stays champion, the more tape there is of him. The more people see what he does in the ring, the more people look for those tiny little holes that might exist in his game. And I think Oba must be aware of that because of the level of scouting that he is actively doing when it comes to opponents. Just because he's had that title for 200-plus days does not mean he's in any rush to get rid of it. Obafemi likes being the ruler. Obafemi wants to set records. And I think I think, first of all, it tells you how seriously he takes Javon Evans as an opponent, that he's doing that level of scouting. Because I think Javon Evans it was not just changed on a Tuesday. I think if you watch Javon Evans week after week, he's gone from somebody that you look at and you go, man, that kid's got some potential, to, man, look at the connection he's got with the audience, to, man, look at the level of offense that he's got, to, maybe he is the guy. And that's what people are saying right now. Maybe Javon Evans is the guy. Doesn't have the potential to be the guy in the future. Maybe he's the guy right now. I would say the only thing that's stopping him from being the guy is a champion that's about yay high, Obafemi.
Well, there was once a time when Javon Evans was simply just happy to be at a premium live event.
That's true.
Those days are long gone. Javon Evans wants to become the champion, but the question is, can he overcome the ruler of NXT? We are going to find out tonight at Heatwave. This is coming your way. The NXT Championship is on the line. Can Javon Evans overcome the impossible and dethrone the ruler, Obafemi?
The NXT Championship is not the only title on the line. The NXT Tag Championships will be defended as well as Hank and Take defend against the Dark State. But which two members of the Dark State will it be?
This one is about representing your country. Two Olympians in Tavion Heights and Tyra May Steele look to represent America as they battle two of Canada's finest in Chelsea Green and Ethan Page.
As the NXT women's division grows and grows and gets more competitive, there's three women who refuse to be left behind. We crown a new #1 contender to the NXT Women's Championship tonight. It's a triple threat match. Jada Parker, Lola Vice, and Kalani Jordan.
It wasn't too long ago that Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe were friends. That friendship has since ended, and they are now bitter rivals. Blake Monroe battles the juggernaut Jordan Grace tonight at Heatwave.
TNA fans everywhere have said there's no way that NXT can have both of TNA's championship. Does it change tonight? Can Jacy Jayne keep this streak alive? She will defend her TNA Knockouts championship against two of TNA's finest, Masha Slamovich and Ash by Elegance. Megan, I just don't know if I see TNA getting that Knockouts championship back. I think people have been doubting Jacy Jayne from the very beginning, and they're not stopping. Look, the priority for TNA should have been going into this triple threat. Let's just get the title back to the organization, right? If you can have Ash and Masha working together just to get the title back into the right house, then maybe there'd be a chance. But that doesn't seem to be the case. This is three women all who want to be that Knockouts champion.
And then you talk about Jacy Jayne. She obviously has Fatal Influence by her side at almost all times. But there's been a lot of tension building with Fatal Influence. You think they'll be able to straighten things out and take care of business?
I think Fatal Influence is a huge advantage. I think that there are haters, much like yourself out there, that are probably looking for the absolute negative in everything that they see. And I don't think that that's what we have going into this triple threat. That's very bad juju for you to be throwing out moments away from the beginning of NXT
calling
Heatwave.
out the obvious that there has certainly been tension within Fatal Influence. As you said, moments away from turning up the heat at Heatwave. Which match are you looking forward to most?
I want to see. Everybody believes that Javon Evans can do it. Everybody believes that we're looking at a different Javon Evans. You heard Blake Howard talking about the influence of The Undertaker. You were talking about the change that you've seen in Javon Evans and the way he's able to fight out of it. But the ruler is simply the ruler. The most dangerous part about Obafemi is there doesn't need to be a change. He can be that same Obafemi and be as dominant as ever. And he may be at Heatwave tonight.
And you call me a hater. I'm just a Javon Evans supporter, and I want to see history made when he becomes the youngest champion in history. Heatwave comes your way next.
Let's get to that history.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fuse has been lit on